I don't know about you guys, but for me, this has been one hell of a week. A lot of crazy stuff happening in the news, a lot of stuff happening around us. Reminds us that we're not in our own private little bubble. You want to know why I've got these glasses on? Well, take a look at my eyes. All right, don't take a look too long. It's because this has been blowing my mind. Stuff that's been happening at Apple, Reddit, Redis, even Meteor. Well, I'm not going to hold you too long on it. This is such a big episode. We've split it into two parts. We're doing part one today, and we're going to get ready to do part two tomorrow at the same time. So it's a little unusual. It's a little different. I do want to mention that very briefly. Today, we are going to be missing one of our hosts. We've got a number of guest items that we'd like to cover, but let's just take it from the top, okay? Mentioned three of those, actually all four of those top news items that we're bringing to you today, and that's going to be our focus here today. So let me just say this is episode 31 out of, I don't know, we'll continue this through the year. Maybe we'll get to 52. If we get to 52, we made a whole year. But this is episode 31 of This Week in MeteorJS, and you're watching us as we are, well, you're either watching the recording or you're watching us live as we're streaming to you. Yeah, it's going to be a little unusual today. My name is Alim Gafar. I'm streaming to you from New York City.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jan Dvorak, aka Storyteller, and I'm streaming to you from the frozen tundra of the upstate New York of my alma mater, RIT, which was kind enough to provide me with a room and, of course, their awesome internet connection to stream from.
I just want to say, Jan, you look spiffy today. I'd like to hit you up for some money.
Wait, that's what I'm doing today at my school.
I think you're supposed to come like this and bring like a one sheet business plan and say, we're going to get users and then we're going to have business and so invest with us. And that's all you need to say. And of course people will just drop money on you. But you need the hoodie.
Yeah, well, I am all professional because I am meeting with some big fishes here. So, but after that, after I'm done with all those meetings, I'm switching and I will be cosplaying as myself from 10 years ago at the local anime convention called Toracon, which 10 years ago I was the chairman of. So that's going to be fun.
It should be. It should be. All right. Well, as we normally do when we're done with our identification, as we did just now, we get right to the news. So let's start it from the top. And I'm going to take these off because although my eyes are, from too much VC partying and everything yesterday, I wish that were true. What's really gotten my eyes all blurry was having my eyes stuck to the screen I was reading about Apple's new dilemma. And Apple is now facing antitrust charges. And they're just coming off, and this is just coming fresh off a recent antitrust finding from the European Commission just over 2 weeks ago. The Commission fined Apple over $1.6 billion for abuse of App Store rules, specifically as it relates to music. And this has been an ongoing thing. As a matter of fact, I believe it was Epic and some other game companies also sued Apple a while back. They've been in the courts of the United States. They've been in the courts of the European Union, and there's been some question as to their model, their walled garden model, and whether or not it's actually fair to developers and also fair to consumers. And I want to read a quote from the European Commission's report, the PR note, as you might call it, that they posted up there, which we have in the background. And just for some context on this, it said that the Commission found that Apple applied restrictions on app developers, preventing them from informing iOS users about alternative or cheaper music subscription and services available outside the app. It's an anti-steering provision, and it says this is illegal from the EU antitrust rules. So the EU has been much, I'd say, much stricter in terms of being forceful in applying its laws as far as competitiveness is concerned in the marketplace than it has been, I guess, in the last 20 years here in the US. I do remember a time when the SEC and others and the Justice Department have been a lot more forthcoming about pushing their lawsuits or trying to enforce the antitrust laws. And so now there is an article, as we mentioned before at the outset of this, that the Justice Department is going after Apple. Apple is accused of monopolizing smartphone markets in the U.S. antitrust lawsuit, is reported by Reuters. And The Verge has, do you have the article for The Verge there?
Yes, right
It
here.
also points out that, it did a little more than just the Reuters article, which gives you the factual basis for the antitrust case or the motion that the Justice Department is taking. And it even goes into a little analysis and gives some 5 takeaways that they think are relevant in this lawsuit. One of which is that, okay, so let me just run through them really quickly, and you can read the article on your own to get the details here. But it says that the iPhone is at the center of everything. So central to the lawsuit is the entire ecosystem around the iPhone. U.S. government, number 2, the U.S. government is keenly aware that green bubbles are uncool. That's basically saying that the Android Messenger, which has green bubbles, not blue ones, are really for losers. And people know that. And that stigma actually, and not allowing Android users to have access to blue bubbles is something that they're doing, and it's anti-competitive. I don't know if I agree with that entirely, because that just seems a little, I don't know. I mean, you could sell cheap jeans and you can sell branded jeans, right? I don't think it's unfair to say that, people think that some branded jeans are cooler than unbranded jeans. And I don't know that that's anti-competitive. But that is one of the points that they make here. The other one is it just works unless your smartwatch isn't an Apple Watch, which they're really pointing to the deep product integration that that Apple has with all of its products and its software. And it's very hard, if not impossible, for competitors to break in and have that level of compatibility. So they're saying that, Apple has an unfair advantage in that. And then the fourth item is that this is about the future of apps, which is about loosening control in the marketplace so that customers have a wider range of options outside what Apple only allows in the App Store. And also it's focused on the whole chokehold it has over developers with the hefty developer fees that they charge. And so that is something else that is pointed out here as also limiting competition and limiting innovation. And then finally on it, it says, don't expect a resolution anytime soon. And that should be obvious to all of us that this is a court battle, and court battles go on for a very long time. And Apple is not one to shy away and settle quickly. So expect a 3+ year engagement on this with not necessarily a clear outcome. It could be settled. It could go all the way through court with a finding. Who knows? I think we all have to stay tuned on this. So this is pretty much a bombshell for Apple. I don't think it's seen this kind of pushback from regulators in a very long time. I don't think most of the tech world has really seen this kind of pushback in a while. So do you have a thought on this?
Well, classical Apple, really nothing much to add. This is what they have been doing for such a long time. And
you brought this up a couple of times.
Yeah. Exactly.
One of the myths.
So this is not new. They use slave labor, to build their iPhones, and that's just a nasty company all in all. But
we'll get back to
their
slave
product
labor
is
a little later, aren't we?
yeah, but their product is sparkling, and somehow people are willing to pay tremendous amount of money for it, even if they want to
Sparkle so much.
Yes, if they went like to competition, they could get like much stronger machines. But then what's kind of true is that their software is well integrated and seems to work better sometimes than a competition. Not always, but sometimes yes. So it is what it is. I don't like them, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I do like Apple's products, and I have been. I wouldn't say an Apple fanboy. I wouldn't go that far, but I have migrated most of my computing resources over to Apple. I don't have a smartwatch. I don't want a smartwatch, um, and they're super expensive. And it's like a watch that becomes obsolete is really not something that makes a lot of sense to me. But there are a lot of people that find their products compelling and useful and beneficial. And I don't know what people are saying in the comments right now. Let's just take a look and see. We've got Jan from Germany in the chat. Hey, Jan. And KC. I don't know KC, but hello, KC. It's good to see you. And thanks for coming here. And so why don't we move on to some other things? We're kind of interested in this from the point of view that I do want to add some context here, which is this is, I think, the biggest antitrust case that I've seen in a long time since the OS wars with Microsoft and Microsoft monopoly and fighting the Justice Department, and then of course again with the browser wars, where they were also fighting the Justice Department about their monopoly with the IE browser. That has petered out over time also, and then over about 20 years now we haven't really seen any big action. There's, I think, been a little bit with Google. They settle a lot, but I don't think there's been anything that seems so striking or formidable, as something like this. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see, but history a little bit, right, in this. And I think we're sticking with the history idea here to some degree.
Yes. Speaking of history, Alim sent me in a very interesting article. Funnily enough, I read it when I was in the library. So like a dutiful student, I took some notes to accompany with that. And it is shared right now. This one, he spoke of computers with some awe, and it speaks about the prehistory of AI just after World War II and some of the new, say, interviews that were discovered recently, and for the early Macy cybernetic conferences. For this one from 1968, speaking about von Neumann, Claude Shannon, Mead, and other, let's say, pioneers in this field.
Yeah.
So here we have a sample from one of the archives, how that looked. And what fascinated me was that even, this early on, they were already pretty much talking about the simulation hypothesis or theory, which says that, we might be living in a computer simulation.
Yeah.
Which I find fascinating that they have even thought about it back then, when computers were the size of buildings.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty interesting. And apparently von Neumann was the first to formulate the initial idea. And then another thing, maybe a little bit related to kind of what's more, maybe I would say, describes why we see so much computer-related innovation in America instead of in Europe. Is that it's kind of said between the lines that Europeans are afraid of computers, while the Americans have the mindset, we created it, we can fix it, and it was even there. The Americans or manager like it if it's in a perpetual state of brokenness, so they can keep on fixing it. And it kind of looks that due to especially World War One in this case, that Europe is fearful and prefers to regulate and limit technology, which I would say is pretty accurate. And in this kind of going back to the title, the awe of computers that the von Neumann spoke, in a way could also be interpreted as the fear of the unknown. And just recently also Google came out with this interview. I'm not sure if you have watched, it came out 8 years ago, the AlphaGo documentary, but it also was like a big thing because Google was creating this AI called AlphaGo to play the game Go, which is very, should I say, more advanced than chess. It has I think trillions of possible moves. And they eventually pitted it against Lee Sedol, who was like the top Go player back then, what you can do. And the computer won 4 out of 5 times, if I remember correctly. And now, in this also, he kind of speaks about how things have changed with that and how he has, kind of approached it. And I think this is also very interesting for the approach, because now one of the things that he said there is it's kind of like the, not necessarily I would say the awe, but it changes, with AlphaGo and kind of being able to analyze all the moves, and now also being able to tell the player why that move is good or that move isn't as good. It changes the game, because before it was a lot, about practice, learning from history, and now it has changed because you no longer because the paradigm is different. So it's more about say data analytics and everything, and the historical records, while interesting, they are not as fruitful anymore. So the game has changed in a way. So kind of like that, and kind of going back to the original article, he spoke with computers all. Another thing that kind of really surprised me there was, how early they have formulated the simulation theory and some of the prediction they made. And I kind of draw the parallel here with Meteor as well, how Meteor was ahead of its time in many of the aspects. And I think, historians are going to be looking at that in the future, and hopefully, I hope, and looking at, what Meteor had and how it affected the wider ecosystem as well. And hopefully it will still have a lot of impact going forward.
What I also found interesting in this is just the, it's the connection of Margaret Mead, a really famous anthropologist, who is known for anthropology, with John von Neumann. Von Neumann is considered the father of the modern computer, right? And there's, the computers today follow the von Neumann architecture, and it's incredible to me that when I looked into the article, and I also read about the conference that they were all at, it's just the variety of different types of intellectual thinkers, whether or not they were mathematics, physics, computer science, but also the humanities that were there. And they were all, sharing their ideas on this. So to me, it was a really fascinating thing to see, this group of people that I would not have thought would have ever met each other, known each other, or interacted with each other.
Yeah, well, another thing to mention there also, von Neumann didn't attend the early conferences, but especially the one that was the interview there, people met with him for lunch outside of the conference.
Yeah.
So, and through, just through him being present and providing
his insights,
kind of his insight, he affected the field as much a lot so as well. So that was like very interesting, piece of history.
It's terrific to see, and it's terrific to see how a lot of what they were talking about is still relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
It's, as you said, it's amazing to hear that they were thinking about these things back then. Maybe the more amazing thing is we haven't really uncovered more seminal or fundamental questions that differ, widely from what they were considering back then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
So, but it is a really interesting story that I think if you're interested in what's going on with AI today, and sort of interested in it's the roots of where it comes from and so on, just as we're exploring with Meteor, I think it's always good to look at the overall field and get a sense of where we come from and where we're going. With that, do you mind if I just pick up on the Redis license for a minute and then you'll go on to Reddit?
Yeah, I just kind of to finish up, I would everybody to recommend to look up the AlphaGo documentary because it has some also very interesting insights, and as you can, and I think should be available on YouTube potentially for free, but don't quote me on that. Look it up, AlphaGo. And kind of the big thing there is that at some point, computer made a very strange move, which was very confusing, but then that proved to be the deciding move in the match. So
something novel. Yeah.
Yes.
So we do have a question from Casey here. I think we addressed this last week. It's Apple stopped supporting PWA. I think originally they did, and then they backtracked on it. I think we had a story on that last week. So thanks for bringing this up, Casey. But we want to make sure that, unless you know something that's different now that they backtracked on their backtracking, our understanding is that they are going to continue supporting PWAs. Okay. And yeah, as I said, I mean, the world is being shaken up this week in tech, and Redis, has gone through a license change and it announced it. And, we're wondering whether or not this is history repeating itself, because what they've done is they have adopted a dual licensing model, which includes the Affero license. It's a server-side license, and this is the license that blew up the internet many years ago when MongoDB decided that they were going to do this because they were really upset with companies like Amazon and Google taking MongoDB and hosting it and running it and getting all the financial benefit of it without giving anything back, right? And when they adopt this, they their open source was sort of open source. You could contribute, but you couldn't make money from it, and there was a lot of problems. I think they fine-tuned it after a while, and now Redis has basically come out and said that they're basically adopting the same thing, right? And what stands out is that no one else has jumped in. I'll tell you that what was interesting is they came out with their blog post on the 20th, and then on the 21st, the very next day, Microsoft, the Azure team, posts a blog post, talking to their customers specifically about the Redis license and how it affects them. And then immediately following that, on the very next, on that very same day that Microsoft posts this, Redis also posts another blog post.
Yeah, actually, Alim, I want to correct you. I want to correct you here because Microsoft posted on the same day as the original announcement, and the next day on the 21st, was the future of Redis.
Right. Oh, Microsoft did not post on the 21st. I thought they posted on the 21st. I thought, okay,
no, it was on the 20th.
All right. So, okay. So we have Redis posting their blog. It seems almost like it's coordinated, or a coordinated post from
if you read the original Redis adapted dual source licensing, they actually do have they have a quote here from the Microsoft people.
What's it say? Read it.
Our collaboration continues to support integrated solution like Azure Cache for Redis, and it will provide Microsoft customers with exclusive access to expanded features within Redis offering. And before that is, we look forward to continuing our collaborative work to support developers with the latest data storage and management innovation, said Julian Liuson, President Developer Division at Microsoft. So this was definitely coordinated. I'm certain, probably because Microsoft might be one of their biggest customers or users. So I'm pretty certain that they kind of informed them and discussed this with them prior.
Well, yeah, it may even seem that Microsoft might be one of the first, licensees under this new model, right? So
exactly.
They kind of want to get out there and sell it. But what really stands out is just like how nobody else has jumped in the same way as Microsoft, right, on this. And how quickly, and the other thing too is how quickly Redis seems to want to change the subject, because it's like one day and all of a sudden, well, we're going to talk about the future of Redis right now. So it just seems like, and I think it's well understood that these licensing changes can be very contentious. And so that's my belief, which is, they're adopting the same license that MongoDB had used. They know the history of what was going on with that. They know how the open source community responded. And I think what they're doing is they're just trying to change the subject and try to move it on. I don't fault them for wanting to do this, because it takes a lot of money to develop open source with a core team, as we all know, and to be able to protect your assets. And others that could just take it, run it, and then make money off the work that you've done, off the work that your teams have done, the investments you've made, is really, it's not cool, to say the least. And on the other hand, it also disincentivizes you from making appropriate investments. So you do want to find a way to monetize so that you can make investments into, further developing and evolving your product as your customers need it and as the user market needs it. But it's hard to do when others are cannibalizing, if you will, your market opportunity.
Exactly. I kind of feel this is the, disintegration of the, say, public domain, or the tragedy of commons. And I fear, well, not say fear, but I think it makes absolute sense for, let's say, companies who build open source like this, that for this to be the default going forward.
Yeah. I think they really tried to strike a balance when I took a look at their blog post and looked quickly at the license. I didn't read the licenses 100%, so I kind of skimmed through it, but it didn't seem like anything stood out to me that was super egregious.
Well, it's a response to companies who use it and then don't give anything back.
Right.
If there was, you could say, more ethics and in the industry, especially from the big companies, where it's like where it should be a total non sequitur to provide funding for the open source technologies used, then this would not be necessary. But sadly, we don't live in that world. So
the things that I noticed in this is that the restriction or the limitation really in terms of the software is competing directly with their business model. So if you bundle Redis, this is what I read and I understood, is that if you bundle Redis into your product and you sell your product, that isn't necessarily seen as directly competing with it. If you are providing it as a service to some other product, but you're not selling it as a standalone service in the cloud, that again is, I believe, acceptable. But it's one of those things that you want to clear with your lawyers if you're doing anything like this. But certainly, and they even have, they say, if you're unsure about your model and whether or not it requires a commercial license from us, here's an email you can send in and explain your situation, and then we'll get back to you and let you know. But I think their biggest concern is really the Amazons, the Azures, the Google Clouds of the world.
And they already got Azure on board, so that I think is a huge win.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they have them on board might pressure the others to come to the table to negotiate, right? So
exactly.
I mean, this is the kind of thing though that gets open source developers when you hear about these license models changing and is it open source? Is it not open source? What's going on? I contribute, I'm not making money. Are you only concerned about yourself? There are a lot of emotional things that come into play here. And I think also, real issues that come into play. But, in terms of taking advantage of people that contribute, there's been one big story over the summer that was just a mess. And you know who I've got to put these shades on to hide from, right?
Let's get to it then.
Yeah. Oh, that guy. What's this about?
So Reddit went public. Had their IPO. They've raised initial 748 million, and they are up within latest was 40%. And the Reddit co-founder has been bickering with people on X and doing other stuff, which just I feel like what the heck are you doing? Shouldn't you be getting drunk all day today? And so that's I would say kind of the big sum of it. A lot of people are also angry that he got a huge compensation package for himself, which for me it's once I read it, they're oh, the poor moderators didn't get anything, and I've got really I was kind of like moderators, the Reddit, it's a platform. People create their communities there and manage it themselves. Why should some randos get the money from this just for managing his own community when he's kind of using the service? And in a way it's kind of maybe gotten too happy that everything is for free, where normally having your own online community or something like that would be probably paid feature or something like that. So it might be, of course it's a bit different when you talk about the big Reddits that are kind of managed by Reddit themselves. But still, that's thing. And also he got the CEO got himself a big compensation, and I'm like, okay, you have put me here some number of compensation, but what does it mean? Is it in stocks? Is it that he got cash out of it, which I find unlikely, because usually with these compensation, it's
well, listen,
stock.
I mean, here's the thing: we've got to put it in context. Reddit has never made a profit, and his compensation is almost 200 million. It's larger than, it's I think the second largest compensation package in tech out there, right?
Yeah.
So that is, I think, the other thing. It's just, I think it's the degree, right? It's sort of like the degree of things. In a sense, we were talking about slave labor before. There are people in the Reddit threads that are saying that that Reddit is really built on slave labor if this guy's getting this level of compensation. And the other thing too is, I mean, they did offer to certain select folks in the community, certain Reddit moderators and so on, the option to buy into the IPO. Now, here's the thing. I remember when a company called TravelZoo was going on its IPO. I was part of that community at the time. There were lots of people. And what TravelZoo did was, it had what it called a reverse Dutch auction. So it's a little different. But what it also did was it said, listen, anybody that was part of this community that was using our products and whatever, we're going to give you 3 shares. And I had 3 shares of TravelZoo when they went public, and it just made you feel good. It didn't cost you anything. You didn't have to go and buy into the market, right? It was their reward to you for using their travel service as a customer, whatever. And certainly Reddit could have done something like this to make the members feel better. But I think there are 2 things. One of the things I read was that some of the folks that did get the offer said, well, why am I gonna, I'm gonna buy into this mess. It's gonna crash like soon afterwards. I'm gonna lose my money, right? And why am I gonna help enrich this guy further, right? By buying the shares of the company so that they could pay him this, awful amount.
But at the same time, he said they set aside 8% of the shares for moderators and passionate users that they could buy.
They could buy into.
Yeah.
That's the argument.
Still better than not setting aside anything.
Sure.
But
the argument that's made by a lot of these people that have built up these communities and so on is that, it's great that you're setting it aside and giving this opportunity, but it's in a way it's symbolic, right? It's performative, because many of those people actually won't be able to buy into the market. They just they're not going to have the resources to do that. So thank you for the opportunity, but there you go. But at the same time, you're in a war with us, and there is a sort of like declining participation or motivation to participate in really building and growing Reddit more, right? So if you're at war with us and we're not seeing eye to eye, what's the likelihood that these shares that we buy are going to actually increase in value? There's the 40% pop today, which is what happened. It closed 40% higher than when it IPO'd. But the feeling is that that might be like many other IPOs. They pop on the first day, and then it's just a steady decline afterwards. And so that's a big worry now.
Yeah, I understand that it's a bit unusual for that compensation package and everything kind of speaks character, but at the same time, again, we don't really know that much of, or maybe I've missed that, how much it is in shares and or things. Usually these big things are in
a lot of it is
similar. So it says it's such a big number because right now the shares are up and it's going to come down, so it's not going to be that huge. And plus I see it like on myself, or like where people complain, oh, why are you getting such a high pay or such a high compensation? And especially like with founders and co-founders, usually people don't realize that usually at least be 5 or 3 to 5 or maybe even longer years of hard work with zero compensation, or you could say negative compensation, when they had to put in their own money in. And people don't see it because they only see like the end result after all those hard years. So I've become through my journey through the startups ecosystem, all stuff, I kind of become very dismissive of any complaints like that. And at the end of the day, it's between him and the company and the shareholders that was.
Wow, you've changed your view on things. We were having like such these conversations before about like how some of these guys are doing this on the free labor of others, and this, I don't think it's that different from free labor from open source software, because
the thing is that Reddit was never open source.
That drives this company. If there is no content, there is no company. They're making the money now from giving the data over to Google to use as part of its training data.
That pisses me off. Right? But at the same time, I've kind of quit Reddit quite a while ago because it was just this hot steaming mess. It becomes more complicated. It's like a different, where I have something like tangible, like the source code, and then the communities and everything. So then it's kind of like is the what is the thing that you are selling, what you're making money off? And in this case, it's you're selling user data. That's the company business.
Right. User data, and not only user data, but the thing is, embedded in that user data is user sentiment, and that is incredibly valuable information. Like what triggers people, what motivates people, what gets them going, right? What ticks them off, All of that is
And
embedded in that data. It's incredibly valuable because then it allows you to target people in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise. You'd have to guess.
yeah, and I think important here to realize is that people like who come to Reddit, who join these communities, is, you are getting paid. You are getting paid by having these services for free, because and you're paying with your data and with your interactions.
Stop talking. You sound like you're going over to the dark side. Stop talking now.
No, that's the entire. Google has the same business. Facebook is exactly the same. You go in and you've got you have it for free, but it's not for free. You're paying for the service with providing your data, all that stuff with which they then sell, and that's how they, let's say, subsidize the free offering again, because but it's not free.
I listen, until it was learned that large language models were slurping up the entire internet and doing this, that data had like absolutely no value to them other than trying to bring advertisers in, right? So now it's become a different way that they can mine information and that they can make a dollar. And the question is like, even with all of this, there should be, there are ethical boundaries and so on. There is also kind of, the smell of things, right? It's like when the exploitation, listen, we get exploited in lots of different ways. You could say, when you have a romantic relationship, right, you're getting some emotional value out of it. You want there is one thing to just like go and just extract that from somebody, but then there's the other where you say, okay, well, I'll give you something. Maybe I'll take you to dinner. I'll show you a movie or something like this, right? You get something out of the transaction, and that you feel that you've gotten something out of the transaction. I think this is part of the whole, thing that's going on here is, listen, there just as we can opt out in certain things, right? In terms of our data, now we have these privacy rules and so on, where you could say, look, I can go to my browser and I can opt out of them collecting my data and them doing certain things with it. It's very manual and it's very labor intensive and it takes me time and I have to jump through hoops in order to do that, but I can do that. In the same sense, I think part of the argument with the Reddit was that the moderators, manage these groups and so on, and they want to be able to control access to the information and how the information is used within their forum.
Yeah.
And the action that the company has taken that said, well, actually, no, you just kind of like do things the way, we want to. And if you don't like it, we'll replace you. I think is really ham-handed. And I think that also crosses some sense of ethical with this.
Reddit always had a lot of, how should I say it, issues in this regard, a lot of news about them, I could say, censoring certain things or kicking out people that didn't toe the line. So which is kind of one of the biggest reason why I quit, why I have it blocked on via my DSN, because I just don't care for it. But also as you said with the smell, let's, like we have here, the being petty about not being called out by a name by some of your chief investors, like that can also shows that that guy might have too big of an ego for his own good. So that's that also can affect other things. But as I said, for me, Reddit has been a hot mess for a very long time and had many issues that you mentioned here. And I'm not enthused, and I have no I have no emotional investment into this, and I don't really care about anybody complaining that, of course, the CEO of a hot mess of a company is giving himself a lot of big compensation.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's you could just imagine it. This is like what is like the hip hop style like celebration. You can imagine him in the hot tub with dollar bills just falling all over him and champagne in the background, right? I mean, It's probably all smiles and everything right now, but it's okay. Listen, the reason we bring this up also is because there are many users that actually do spend time in Reddit and in Reddit subreddits and working those threads. So, yeah, it's like I said, this has been a big mess this week in terms of this news. We were hoping to have Gabriel on this morning, but there is, I believe, a competing stream that's going on right now that he's in. He did try to leave us a video, but we aren't able to access the video. So he was going to give us a little bit of a background on what's happened with 3.0 and with the latest version that's come out recently, and give us some reminders. So let me just throw the reminders in here, which is one is, and hopefully we'll have the video tomorrow when we do the second half of this. One is that in order to get to a certified build, we need to help figure out what are the problems with the beta builds. And the only way we're going to figure that out is by trying to install it, trying to run it, and seeing where the bugs are. Otherwise, you're going to get a buggy certified build. And that's what we're trying to not have. Küster, I'm sorry, Storyteller, you have...
Yeah, we have, looking at things, we have another beta is supposed to come out this maybe today or next week. And then we are off to a release candidate. Also, in the meantime, apparently Meteor 2.16 is going to be made. And I'm hoping that maybe on Monday, we'll be able to kind of get a few people together and do like a PR sprint to merge as many of the outstanding PRs into that, which will be good. And if things proceed as they are, then Meteor 2.16 will be the last of the Meteor 2.x branch as in releases.
And I want to remind people, and I think there's been some notations on this before, that Node 14, the Meteor team took that on and was providing long-term support for it, but it's long-term support only to a point. And I don't know whether or not there's any, if you have any information on any patches from the pull requests that have come in for Node 14, but my understanding is that there hasn't really been a new release of Node 14 in about 3 months
not
or
that
so.
I know of.
Yeah. So again, a reminder is that they took on the long-term support of it in terms of adding security patches and so on. But the Meteor team also said that it was going to be for a limited time. So it wasn't going to be forever. So if that's not motivation for you to move on to 3, I don't know what is. But I would suggest that you start wrapping up your projects on 2. If it works on 2 and you don't need to move, God bless you, stay there. That can be a solution too. We showed some websites that have been running on 2.7, 2.5, that are still running many years later, and they seem to be fine for the folks that are doing so. So we're not saying upgrade for upgrade's sake, but if you want to stay with the latest platform, you want to make sure that your application is compatible with future versions, you really need to undertake an effort to move your application forward. And I would also say that if you are unsettled by the idea of doing it yourself, you can reach out here and just drop a note and say, hey, we're unsure who to talk to about helping us get to that next level. We've had folks from Quave, folks from, even the Meteor team, and then other independent software developers here who have said that they're willing to help other companies on or other projects move their projects over onto 3. So as I said before, you could just drop a note in the comments. Let us know that you're interested in connecting with somebody. We'll try to do what we can to help make that connection happen and, get you on your way. Storyteller, is there anything else that we need to cover before we do the end of this split today?
Yes, there is one little thing which we can do today. And that is, there is a article. Let me switch to that.
Okay.
Front-end Trailblazers, a complete around front-end developers in 2024, which is from Harris Shaikh. Hopefully I got that correctly. Apologies for mispronunciation. And that kind of gives you the rundown. What do you need to do to become a front-end developer in the current year? What you need to learn. So starting with HTML, then CSS, basics of JS, then learn any CSS framework, which sure, I am a bit split on about learning any CSS preprocessors. Sure, it's a nice skills, but I think a lot of that stuff has already been moved into CSS, so it might be a bit extra. Then we have, of course, you need to learn Git, GitHub, of course, learn about npm, yarn, and then pick up your front end library. And one of the things going on here, what we have here is Meteor. Look at that. So,
wow.
No, not sure why it's under the front end things here. Might need a little bit of adjustment, but I find it really nice that Meteor is mentioned here. And kind of that's and then things to learn after learning React is some other framework, so or Electron, all that stuff. But yeah, even before that, it tells people to learn Meteor, so I think that's pretty nice to see. So go to Dev2 and give this article some love, so that we maybe have also more people talking about Meteor as well.
Awesome. And listen, if you guys have been finding this episode to be to your liking, there is a like button that you can click on and show your appreciation. Also, if you're here and you haven't done so before, please hit the subscribe button so that way you can be notified of the next episodes. And we are in the process of setting up tomorrow's episode. It's already scheduled, but we still have some work to do on that. So you want to make sure that you'll get the notification for when that episode goes live. I'll tell you right now, it's not a secret. It's going to be the same time that we started today, 9:30, and we'll be just doing the second half of this, a little more news, and then some of the features if we can. We were expecting, as I said before, to do this video that we had gotten from Gabrielle. Hopefully tomorrow we will have it and it'll be in place. Tomorrow we're looking at things like an interview with Harry Adele, and hopefully Harry will be with us and he can participate in the chat as we watch the interview that he did. It was a great interview, and really looking forward to sharing that with you. And then who was the other one that we had here that we were and of course Dr. Dimitru. Maybe he might be able to make it tomorrow. He couldn't make it today because he is doing a pitch on Meteor files right now as we speak. So he had wanted to be with us and share information about Meteor files. He was going to do a demo and so on. So the hope is that he will be here tomorrow and be able to do it. Otherwise, we'll get a video from him also and we'll be able to comment on it. But I think it's much better if he's able to join us in person, because then you could talk to him. You can ask him questions. You can get the lowdown, the inside info, all that stuff. I think it's really great, when they're here. So I'm looking forward to both of those things, and all three of those things, and seeing how we can pick up on it. And we heard back from Jan Küster. He said he doesn't feel so bad right now. He had an injury. So did we mention this at all?
No.
Oh, okay. So Küster is not here with us today because he had an eye injury this morning that took him to the hospital. And so we've been just tracking with him on Slack. And he's at the hospital right now. He's saying, I don't know if he's through the hospital, but he says for now he doesn't feel so bad and he hopes it stays that way. it's not clear whether or not he's going to be well enough to participate tomorrow. We're going to see how that all works out. Storyteller, you're busy tomorrow, right? So you won't be here?
Yes, I have 2 talks tomorrow, so I won't be here.
Okay.
But I should be back on Monday. No promises yet. On Monday, I'll have my birthday stream on my stream.
Yay.
Hopefully, if everything works out. No promises because something might show up unexpectedly.
Right.
That said, I have released, I think on Wednesday, was it, my talk with Kelly Copley. We had a talk on Sunday after going together, or he was helping organize Writers Conference of Northern Appalachia.
Can you put the link to that in the chat so anybody that's there right now that might be interested in going can get to it?
Let me,
because that is what I'm doing after this program. Is I'm going to be sitting down for some breakfast, and I'll be watching the interview that you have with Kelly Copley. Was it 2 days ago?
Well, it was taped on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
But it took me a little bit to
get it up
put
there
together and release it on my channel. Also did some, let's say, first kind of big try in doing some video editing.
Okay.
So that was also
we've all got to start someplace, right?
So yeah. The link for that is in the chat. As I said, Monday, hopefully a birthday stream. My goal is to hopefully get a few people from Meteor team as well and do a PR sprint, merging everything together. And then after that, I'm flying back to Europe on Tuesday afternoon. So I'll be back on Wednesday. So following from that, things should, after I get rid of my jet lag, stabilize a bit.
Yeah, that's jet lag. Ooh. But, listen, I mean, thanks for coming to the States. I wish we had a chance to get together while you're here, but,
Well, if you want to make a trip to the frozen tundra up north, or if anybody else is in Rochester, let me know, or Rochester, like the surrounding area, Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to organize some sort of a Meteor meetup. Just let me know that, you are here, and I'll see what I can do.
Right. So, folks, share your thoughts. Leave a comment in the comments after we go, after this is closed out. In the chat right now is where you would leave it. And, one of the things I just want to mention is that you guys should, remember to support our open source community, right? We talked about this a little bit, and we have some sponsorships for folks that are building and working on Meteor. Both the On brothers have GitHub sponsorship pages. Even Gabrielle has a GitHub sponsorship page too, and we normally, bring him in on this. Oh, I'm finally getting I'll do it tomorrow, and so please show your support by. That's Gabrielle. Like, Gabrielle is pinging me now, but okay. we'll get to that in a bit. So show your support. Let them know that you find the work that they do valuable. As you know, Storyteller works on both the core code as well as manages the community packages. It's a big job, and letting them know that the work that they do is meaningful and you find it useful, and if you use it, I think it's worthwhile to just show them some love. Okay.
Yeah.
And
sponsor us, or we'll have to switch to dual licensing.
Can you imagine dual licenses on packages? That would be insane. All right.
Well, I'm working on a set of packages where I might consider this because of what
interesting.
they do.
All right. Well, yeah, let's see how that goes. All right. And tomorrow we have Gabriel Gruba, Harry Adel, and Dmitry Golev. Okay. And the rest of our news. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye and see you tomorrow. and I'm looking at the wrong place. My freaking camera is right in front of me, and I'm not looking at it. I've been doing this all day.
That's the glasses,
I'm
Alan.
a little upset with myself. Let me just cool down now. Cool down. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Where's my cursor?